So, ladies and gentlemen, I have got the one and only Nate Brown in the building. I remember the first time I met you, and every other time I've seen you, you're
Dude,
always in a hat and some crazy suit or outfit. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
oh, thank you, Amas. Thrilled to be here. Love your show, and I absolutely remember meeting you at HDI many years ago, and kindred spirit right away. And it's an absolute honor to be here. So thank you for having me.
Well, let's get to the hard stuff. I'm
Woo!
excited
Let's
you're
do it.
here. How many hats do you own?
Oh
Let's get that
gosh,
out of the way.
there's a hat rack there. There's three more there. There's seven more there. I've got probably I'd say 25 downstairs. So let's add that up. Let's say 44 hats.
Wow. So listen, I I need to make it out to Nashville. I haven't been there in 10 years. But you look like the guy who's having the most fun in the whole world.
Yeah,
So and all you seem to talk about is CX. So I'm going to ask
true.
you this question. You're a little bit biased. Is there a better gig out there than doing customer experience?
I'm going to surprise you, and I'm going to say yeah. It would be a
Oh, okay.
professional pickleball player. If I was just a little more athletic, that's what I'd be doing. But my goodness, CX is a strong number two. Well, it started for me by selling postage meters on the streets of Jacksonville, Florida. So I guess, the lesson there is set a very low bar, and then everything's fun after that. It was wild. It was
It
so
was just
hard.
up from there, right?
Exactly.
Like there's
Once you've been cussed out of strip malls all day for almost a year, it's easy to go out from there. But I will say, Amas, I did really enjoy the customer service element
yeah.
of helping people with the postage meter. So the next role that I got was an entry level customer service role,
Mm,
and that became the coolest, funnest thing. It was at a little safety company called Pure Safety, which
mm.
would later get acquired by UL, which is a behemoth safety science organization. And I was just a kid in a candy store, just learning how to do customer service, learning how to be a leader. Ultimately took ownership of that team years later. Started to get to manage the training team after a period of time, and do some other really fun stuff inside of that organization. So grateful for the tenure there. And at the very end of the 12 years at UL and affiliated companies,
Right.
I got to move into what we would call a true CX level role. And
Okay.
so I loved customer service, but one thing that I didn't love about it was just the reactive element of just taking a bunch of tickets all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
defense,
don't
right? It's just
Oh, it is. It is. And it's so important.
yes.
But I was hungry to go on offense and become a
Mm,
little bit more proactive. And I didn't know it at the time, but the word I was looking for that was customer experience. Let's look at the expectations that we're setting upstream in the journey. Let's look at where the friction comes from and why these tickets happen to exist and why we get the
amen.
same ones so often. What if we made some of these issues actually go away and not just the ticket go away?
Now you're in crazy town. You mean we can prevent the thing from becoming a problem?
And so,
Get
I
out
mean,
of
I
here.
just loved bringing that mentality to the organization. People were hungry for that too. They kind of felt the same. And so developed an organic, and this is kind of the lesson to your question. How do you get more on this? I just brought people together that had a similar concern for the customer. They had that intrinsic motivator of wanting to serve the customer really well, and just started bringing those people together organically. We formed a mini CX change coalition that would become a certified function in the organization later.
Mm,
But you don't have to wait for that.
right.
What you get to do now is just unify people that love the customer. Think about specific ways that you can serve them better and start to unite people in that movement, that revolution of wow, let's reduce friction. Let's think about the voice of the customer and how we can serve the customer through their entire journey and earn the right to grow this business by treating them as that valuable asset and serving each other just as well inside of the business too. Yeah, I mean, one of the high points was just getting in that first entry level customer service role and just
Mm.
crushing tickets all day, like 100 tickets. I loved it, and just the energy of the volume of that, and getting to help so many people in that dynamic format. It was awesome. But then, kind of the low point came when, our team wasn't meshing and we needed to go through a cultural evolution. The work didn't become it wasn't as fun anymore. and was definitely seeking, something a little different there. And, that was kind of that leadership journey. The first couple of years of that were really hard.
Right.
And what it boiled down to for me is I was being way too selfish.
Mm.
And I had to learn to like just put my mindset in where others are more, and make it less about me and what I was trying to do as a leader, and more about what we can do to cultivate them and bring them to a place where they can be an even better, cooler person and serve the business even better as part of that journey. So it was becoming a less selfish leader, but it was a low point, became a high point. Another high point for sure was this program inside of UL called GLP, Global Leadership Program.
Global Leadership Program. What's that?
And it was a little cohort. It was like 20 folks brought together, and they did, a couple classes of this a year. And it was just incredible. I mean, we got to go through all these challenging facilitation exercises and these difficult problem solving scenarios put in front of us. And it brought the group together. We read all these great books, and just really challenged ourselves in this cohort, this community learning concept. And we were really endorsed, to go forward and help change the culture of the business in a really fun and exciting way. And it was through that program that I really got the confidence to start up CX Accelerator and start to make an impact in a more amplified way. And so that was a huge high. Another cool high, fast forwarding the clock a little bit, was getting to jump in and started to do some consulting.
Yes,
for
yes,
Warner Brothers
yes.
Games and for CHEP and some other amazing organizations, and just
Right.
loving the unique challenge of getting to jump in and kind of see some different things and solve some really cool challenges. I mean, awesome organizations, both of those couple and several others I got to serve inside of. And so loved that cycle as a consultant. But another low point, was released from a job recently, Amos. And so now having to pivot a little bit, it was unexpected for sure, and forging a new path here, and kind of assessing, okay, what are my gifts?
Right.
What do I really want to do in this space? What kind of legacy do I want to leave here? And how can I do that in a way that's honoring my family and serving my family really well? So answering a lot of big questions right now. I would call this a bit of a low point, but it's also an exciting point. I can feel a high point coming.
I wrote an article a couple of years ago. I said, before customer experience came to kill us. And what I meant by that is, while I am all in on customer experience, the whole thing just lost its way.
Wow.
And it
Yeah.
became really about, let me bring these top down, things, but it was a Trojan horse. It was just tack.
Yeah.
Why have you chosen to make people at the center of how you evangelize customer experience?
What a question. We use tools. We serve people. At the end of the day, the reason the business started was to serve a group of people. And we get so lost in that. And so the CX professional has this incredible opportunity to refocus, realign, re-educate the organization on its own brand promise.
Yes.
And to help everybody remember what the heck they're doing and why. And tools are so helpful for that quest. I mean, voice of customer experience management platforms, as an example, my goodness, as a CX professional, what a treasure that is. What an enhancer to our job. But is that the job? Is that the nature of the work? My goodness, no. I love when I define CX, I like to talk about, we make people's lives better and easier. That's the box. That's the overflow that we get to serve out of. And then, okay, so how can we do that really well? And my goodness, tools are going to be a huge part of that. I mean, if we think about the experiences that folks are having with brands, like 80% of those are happening in a digital ecosystem right now for most organizations. So do we need to have the digital experience be really good? Of course we do.
Yep.
But I mean, that's not the end game. That's not what we're trying to achieve. What we're trying to achieve is to enhance somebody's life in that process, to make their day a little bit easier, to help them achieve their definition of success. To use that story brand language, they're the hero of the story.
Yeah.
And the tools get in the way so much. I mean, you'd be amazed to know, and you probably already do know this, but I mean, this is going all the way back to 2018, the Cloud Security Alliance report. They said that the average enterprise organization has 464 tools, custom applications in it. How screwed up is that? Data is everywhere. The tool set is broken. And so people can't do their jobs because it's a mess. The digital ecosystem is a mess. So we just need to help clean it up, simplify it, harmonize that a little bit so that we can do what actually matters and do it well.
I couldn't agree with you more. And if you're just tuning in, I am with my good friend and CX guru Nate Brown. We're gonna have his LinkedIn info here. He's been in this space for decades. Let's break things up a little bit. I want to ask you a fun question, if you will. So,
Okay.
what was the life mystery you found out embarrassingly too late in life?
Oh, man.
For me, it took me till college to realize that the whole wrestling thing was fake. It
Oh,
broke my heart. Like, I know the moment I was sitting there and they were like, wait, they're not actually
oh,
fighting. This is all a script. This whole
yeah. Mm.
The Iron Sheik, all my heroes, they were actors. That broke my heart. What was something you found out embarrassingly too late in life? You're like, okay, I should have known this a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a controversial one here. This is hot off the press. Raw milk is incredible.
Oh,
All right? Stay with me here.
okay.
So I'm about a month into this journey.
Go on, go on.
It's amazing. Not only does it taste so much better.
Do you own your own cows? What is going on in
No.
Nashville?
So we started buying our milk from some dude in a parking lot. And
Raw milk from a dude in a parking lot. So many bad choices here.
I know you're skeptical, but I'm just saying I've never felt better about my milk choices. And I think we've all been deceived and how our milk has been treated. So I'm just saying, just do a little research, just think about it, reassess your milk relationship. That's going to be my answer.
You heard it here first. Our podcast is delivering you CX gems.
Yeah.
And an endorsement of raw milk.
Okay. And I might need to come back on the show in a month and be like, guys, I'm so sorry. Never drink raw milk. So let me just keep that door open.
Because listen, one of the things about this craft, Nate, is try not to kill off your audience.
Yeah.
I've heard that is bad for business. You want them alive, healthy. So please do come back and let us know how it's going for you before we stamp it. Going back to people
after 3 months, then I feel like we could maybe okay. All right.
We can do at that time you would have sold out to big raw milk anyway. We won't be
You're right. You're so right.
Like what are we kidding here? I'll have to pay you to get you back on there if that ends up going well. Going back to people and not animals, let's go back to people. So if you say it is about people, then it stands to reason that maybe the most important job for CX is listening to people. And Nate, I got to tell you, this may be the one job. If this is the one job, let's oversimplify. This is the one job organizations are terrible at.
Wow. Yeah.
Do you agree? Like, my gosh, if it's about people, you gotta hear them out. Why is that such a mess?
Yeah. Well, holy cow. It's hard, right? And I remember serving inside of an organization where there was this mantra: "We have an open door policy."
Oh yeah.
And that was like the thing that would be said. But the actual culture said something very different. Do not bother me. I do not care. And if we don't set up a voice of employee function, a capability, and there does need to be a part of that where it's anonymous, where somebody can come onto a mobile device quickly and easily, or their laptop if they prefer, and answer just a couple questions about how their week is going and how they feel about their job. So, I mean, Office Vibe would be one example that does a brilliant job of these pulse surveys, Tiny Pulse being another. I know Qualtrics has a function of this as well. I've never seen it personally, but I'm sure it's excellent. And having something like that gives employees the opportunity to regularly and authentically voice how it's going for them. That's the type of data we've got to have to know where our people are at and if we have earned the right yet to even focus on the customer experience.
Yeah.
Or if
Whoa,
we need
hold on a
first,
second.
yeah.
So let me unpack that. You
Mm.
are asserting that the tickets to even focusing on the end customer starts by listening to the internal employees. Say more there. You are
I
starting
have
to
asserted.
you
I
are
have asserted
you're
this.
starting to
Yeah.
speak a whole other language from what I am used to here. Go on.
Well, I mean, I love how Denise Leon says this. So, I mean, you as the organization are giving a gift to your employees every day. And
Yeah.
it's the gift of an experience. And that gift is the only thing that they can authentically give forward to the customer. The more they have to fake the giving of that gift, the more inauthentic that becomes, the more that they get burned out and they lose the soul of their job. They lose the reason why they're there and it becomes just a job. But if that gift is given to them in a way that's compelling and consistent with the brand promise and consistent with the type of experience that you're trying to create for your customers, you're not just asking them to go do that. You're showing them, you're modeling that out for them as an organization leadership. Then they can take it and they can so proudly give it forward consistently, accurately. The customer feels that. It becomes the fiber of the organization. So you can't fake this stuff for long.
I I I I think this very nugget may be at the root of why we make minor progress on this and we don't really make a breakthrough.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
the customer number one, as I call it, your employees, particularly the service employees, the ones
Well
who serve your
said.
customer,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to skip them over. We tend to say if we make the life better for the customer by definition or by as a byproduct, there's a trickle down thing there. We will do it
Sure.
for the end customer, and by gosh, it'll get better. And ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to believe a word Nate and I are saying. Just next time you fly, notice how you buy the ticket on a modern website. Oh, beautiful bells and whistles. They're all great, what have you. There's beautiful email templates being sent to you. And then you get to the airport and something goes wrong. Peek over the shoulder of that service representative who is helping you.
Oh
You're going to
gosh.
notice she doesn't even own a mouse. She's like, he or she is out there in a green blue screen, arrowing down feverishly, going to this thing. But that tells you all you need to know, because
Yeah.
all of them decided the first thing I need to go do is, instead of building the foundation of the house, is to
Yeah.
go paint the siding and put this beautiful website out there. Everything looks great. And then
Sure.
underneath, you have these humans doing extraordinary work. And so,
Wow.
Nate, I think if people would just, for a second, specifically, not a byproduct, not a trickle down, specifically think of that human as their first customer. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We
Wow.
will be in a much better place.
I mean, I do love agile development and the idea of value streams. So, I mean, if you're thinking about ultimately where does value derive for the company, where are we making the money? Well, obviously, we're making that from our customer relationships. So, if we know there are things that are causing friction that we could go work on, then let's put significant energy into that value stream. But we got to have a good, sophisticated voice of customer engine to allow us to identify those friction points well and not just have it be some fire drill thing where some executive got blown up on a phone call last week. So now here we are all having to fix that one little problem that we know is not going to serve very many customers very well.
No.
But if we're locked in, if we've got that good VOC engine, to use that Gene Bliss term, then we can very accurately say, wow, if we do these things, if we focus on these areas, we will earn the right to grow this relationship with this customer, this customer, this customer. We're going to amplify the share of wallet, increase retention and loyalty. There's so many great outcomes that come from that. And yeah, a lot of that will happen in the house.
Yeah.
We can't do our jobs. We can't serve the customer well. I mean, you'll remember recently, I mean, to use the airline example, there was a major airline that we all know that puts little hearts on everything. And because of their internal systems, everything came to a crashing halt.
Right.
And they had to deal with the reality of, wow, we've got to rebuild inside the house before we keep painting the outside of it. And they did that well.
Yes.
And they re-earned my confidence, and I have recently booked on them again. But I mean, you have to you just got to be realistic about this stuff.
I agree. I feel like I brought some grievances to this call with CX. So I've got another one for you. So I remember when NPS became a thing. I think Bain and Company came in, and my gosh, for me, I was excited. The reason I was excited, I was on the internal side at the time, and for the first time in my career, my CEO was asking me about the customer. Oh my gosh, so did I. I was like, hallelujah.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah.
And then I dug into the thing and I was like, okay, I really, 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 really hate this number. Right. And I said, okay, where do we go from here? So then they brought in customer effort score. Remember that book? Oh, the effortless experience.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, another thing. And it took us to a place I got excited again. And very quickly again, I became disillusioned. The reason I was disillusioned with all of this is there was a quantification of the CX role. The CX became a bunch of quants. Again, coming for you again. There were these research people who would come in and quantified the hell out of everything about this human business. And I'm not anti-numbers, but what happened to me, this is from my vantage point, is VOC programs became a net negative. It used to be a net positive for me because it allowed, it became a thing that we could use to go. And the moment it became about how can we get this number to an 8, to a 7, to a this, and that became all of it. My gosh, I got disillusioned because the conversations were no longer about the human problems. Yeah, we talked about the human problems as a means to get that damn number up so that everyone can get their bonuses and what have you. So I say all of that to now say that when I think about VOC, I have very mixed feelings. So I would love you to respond to one, what I've just said about how I see the state of things as it relates to VOC, and dive into what's broken about it, and maybe we can end on some solutions.
It's a big topic. I'm sorry you were hurt. But I too had a love-hate cycle with NPS. I still love CES, but I mean, at the end of the day, these are just data points. These are just metrics. I believe there's a proverb that says something to the effect of "There's wisdom in a multitude of counselors."
Amen.
There's wisdom in a variety of metrics. I mean, what are we trying to do with these metrics? We're trying to figure out the truth of the customer journey and how we can keep serving them better and be a better guide for them and partner more with them. So yeah, we need a variety of data points that are going to illuminate different friction pockets and different things that we're doing really well. I mean, we forget that in the work of Voice of Customer so often. I mean, let's look at these folks that are just kind of slogging through a lot of the time in their jobs. And they want to be intrinsically motivated with the purpose of why they're doing what they're doing. That Voice of Customer function is what gives that to them, or it should. We should be using that to show, wow, look at the impact we're having. My goodness, look at this story over here. Look at this improvement here. We are making people's lives better and easier through the work that you're doing. Incredible. Keep it up. That should be like 80% of Voice of Customer right there. And that other 20%, it's uncovering that opportunity to resolve friction and make an even better, more compelling customer journey. So, I mean, there's so much that we should and can do with voice of customer. I love what customer success has done in
Oh,
that area of
yes.
metrics.
Yes.
Let's think about customer health score and customer engagement score. Let's take a composite metric that's intelligently designed to show engagement and how well we're serving the customer throughout every major milestone of their journey, and quantify that in a way. But there's so much underlying interesting information to pull out of that and learn from as an
I
organization.
I'm not gonna let you go without when I mentioned the NPS score, I saw trauma come out of you. You've got to tell me the story there. What happened that got
Yeah.
got that look at?
Well, I mean, NPS can be super helpful, but I
Yeah.
mean, you are so correct. I mean, it became the holy grail for these executives. They got addicted, many of them, to this silly score. And literally, the score became this idol that took
Yes.
precedence over actual customer relationships. And I remember, same as you, Amos, I was sitting in a meeting and we were discussing the score. And I finally got so frustrated and I said, what does that do? Let's say we take that from a 7.6 to a 7.8. What did that do for anybody? How did that serve any customer?
We get
And
w-
you know, I was
Nate,
a
Nate,
little emotionally hijacked, but the answer was nothing. The answer was nothing.
we get bonuses, Nate. We get bonuses,
Oh, I
Nate.
mean, oh, if you start to put financial metrics on these numbers,
We get
oh
bonuses.
my
That's
gosh,
that's
people
what
are
it
going to
does.
gamify that. People are going to do whatever it takes to make the number higher at the detriment to customer relationship and peer-to-peer relationship. You want to quickly sabotage a CX or customer service program? Start to put financial metrics on half-baked numbers
Oh,
or financial incentives on half-baked numbers.
it's over. It's over. And
Done.
that's where we find ourselves. I want to go to let's stay on VOC because I want to get to a deeper place here. So I think about the collection process for VOC,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
don't even get me started. And no one has any faith in this. How do we restore faith in VOC? Meaning, I avoid filling out surveys like the plague.
Oh, sure.
I can go into all of the reasons. Number one, I just landed, not to pick on airlines, but let's stay there. I just landed off of the plane and you're asking me how did the flight experience? So I think you were there. You saw how we were 3 hours late. Why are you asking me this? Are you
You were
trying to
there.
rub this thing in? What are you actually doing here?
I
Right.
love it.
And then I have no faith that anything but an aggregation of my numbers are going to happen and I'm gonna end
Yeah.
up in now we are 0.05 points lower than we were higher yesterday. Like nothing's going to happen. So why
Mm,
bother? So let's
yeah.
go back to VOC and customer feedback and sentiment and how they're feeling. And how do we restore faith back in and get to a place where employees and customers and stakeholders feel like their voice that they were taking their valuable time and sharing with us actually means anything? Otherwise, this thing's going to just continue to go down.
Wow. Yeah. Well, as far as the collection element, we need to reach into third-party areas. Most of VOC today is out there in an unstructured format,
Yeah.
meaning we don't control it. We might want to, but a structured channel is a survey, a customer advisory board. These are the things. We rely too much still on those structured channels when in fact the customer is already out there articulating their perception of your brand. You got to get out there and get that unstructured data and bring it in to make it worthwhile from a quantity and quality standpoint of that information. So we could talk a lot more about that method, but just challenge yourself now. I've got a whole listening path diagram that I love to create. Let's look at this part of the customer journey. What are your structured and unstructured channels that you have that exist here? How do we know how
Right.
well we're doing here? And you find gaps in your VOC engine that you need to tune up. So it's a fun process. It's exciting to go through and see, wow, no wonder we don't know what's going on here. We're not collecting any good information at this point. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about education, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to make happen. People, hopefully, if you have a culture that's good,
Right.
they're hungry to know, how can I guide the customer to their definition of success better? So this VOC information, it should be used to educate folks in an exciting way. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
One time years ago at a place I worked, there was a tool that gained a negative sentiment
Okay.
on the customer side. It didn't take long to ascertain the negative sentiment was coming from our employees on this piece of software. People were saying how much they hated it. So I'm going around and there's a lot of water cooler talk going on, right?
Right.
And so I'm asking, I was like, well, I mean, what do you hate about it? Oh, well, the UI and this feature didn't work. And it's like, well, what about these things? It's like, well, I haven't actually ever logged in. And come to find out, like nobody had really used this thing.
Right.
So we weren't eating our own dog food. So we went through the process. I collected a ton of customer data. And as it turned out, there was a group of customers. This thing was really helping them. I mean, it was serving them really well. And so it's like, wow, this is an opportunity to educate the business. But before that, I had to get them to actually get in there and do something with it. So in this case, it was incident management.
Right.
And so it was like something happened in the occupational environment, and an EHS manager, environmental health and safety manager, would have to log an incident. So what we did, we simulated the Kool-Aid man bursting through a wall in the break room and breaking my arm. And we caught this on security footage. So when the employees came to work that day, they had to watch this clip of the Kool-Aid man coming through the wall, break in Nate's arm, and they could go over to the break room and investigate, like an EHS manager would, investigate the scene of the incident. And then they were given a login to log the incident. And if they did that and generated X report, that report was their ticket to come into a lunch that we catered that day. And what did I do at that lunch? We presented a customer journey map. We educated. Here's what's going on with our customers. They're using this and they're loving it. It's actually pretty incredible what this is accomplishing. And you wouldn't believe how much we re-fostered a positive sentiment in that 12-hour cycle. It was awesome.
Wow. Again, if you're just listening, I'm with Nate Brown, CX extraordinaire, decades. We're gonna put his info on the show, and you guys can go connect with him. Let me ask you a personal question. You know, I asked some of my guests, what was a purchase under $50 that was life changing for you? I'll go first.
Yeah.
For me, I have problem with my sleep in that I have this sort of very dry eyes, and any amount of light is like death. I bought these face masks. Oh my gosh. What it's done for my sleep, because you can open your eyes and you're not going to see anything. Like it's that deal. And it's done wonders for my sleep. What would be one purchase under $50 that you're like, game changer?
Well, I'm going to need to learn more about yours because I am a darkness sleeper as well. So that's awesome. Right now, I've got a golden doodle that it's compressed into me and it's causing sleep issues. So I'm going to need to find a solution to the golden doodle scenario. But for me, it's my first pickleball paddle.
Oh, yes. I have not gotten...
Holy cow.
Wow.
So it was kind of a COVID sport in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this pickleball has been around since the 1960s, but you hadn't heard of it unless you played it in PE class when you were 12. But now, like, it is literally the fastest growing sport in the country. It's exploding, and it's because it's such a community. It's a community game, and it gave people this sense of identity when it wasn't happening in their life in other areas. And some new relationships that were so dynamic and exciting. It's a shared dynamic social experience. And so I bought that first $50 pickleball paddle, and I showed up to Patterson Park and had the time of my life, and thus began a significant pickleball addiction.
I have not gotten into pickleball in part because I've broken enough things. But I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna break something. So we're wrapping up here. I want to give you an opportunity, Nate. We covered some ground. I think you've restored some of my faith in the CX community, which, by the way, I am a part of. Um,
Yes, you are.
but I'd gotten to the point where some of our leaders and those of us who are out evangelizing this thing have frankly sold out to technology and made this thing really about what it's not, and
Mm.
really it's really how you framed it, which is about people. So love for you to kind of I'll ask the question this way. What would you leave people with on both VOC? We've covered VOC. We talked about community and pickleball, and we talked about
Mhm.
CX in general. What would you leave folks with as we wrap up today?
Yeah, on the VOC, the point I'd like to make again there, use it to intrinsically motivate
Mm,
more than anything else. So if we look at the brilliant research of Prime to Perform, what causes somebody to work well over time is that intrinsic motivation. They're becoming the person they want to become. There's purpose-driven work, and there's curiosity. There's a sense of excitement, and I'm getting to do something really good here, and I'm learning. And VOC gives so much of that life into the work that people do. So don't withhold that from them and foster more of it. So connect the customer to the employee using that VOC bridge in as many creative ways as you can. The Kool-Aid Man thing was just an example. Get creative, get fun with that, make it dynamic and good so that you can connect your employees to your customers in a new way. The second thing that just in general, when it comes to CX in general, I love saying that CX leaders are community builders.
mm,
And right now we have isolation is still out there. That was not a COVID thing. Isolation is a society thing. And our US Surgeon General just came out with a giant report on the epidemic of loneliness.
mm.
And it is very real inside of the organizations that we're serving in. And so CX leaders can oftentimes be the one that turn the tide here and that start to foster meaningful connections between people inside the organization and extending that through to the customer. And even to the point where more and more brands are creating really good brand communities in which they're co-creating with an ecosystem of employees and customers together to forge an elevated brand promise and to innovate in ways that they never could have before and have customers supporting customers. So I think that's the future of our work.
I
And it's just so exciting to be a part of it right now.
that is a beautiful place. I think it's customers. We are going to merge with technology. You're going to have chips in your arm. No, I don't I don't mean that literally, but
It
maybe.
helps me play
But
pickleball better. I'll take one.
but I think it's us, the separation between us and machine in a thoughtful way, customers helping other customers, and
Yep.
the ownership of the brand being more spread is the future.
Yeah.
One last thing where I like to leave things is, what is one thing in the last few weeks or whatever, whether it be a quote, something that made you laugh, made you smarter, will
Oof.
be a place we leave things, something funny, whatever you watch, it could be whatever. Mine, um, I like reading. I think that you know this. I like reading old philosophy books. Some of these
Nice.
guys are pretty sad. And one of the saddest philosophers is Art Schopenhauer. Do not read this thing on a bad day. But there's
Wow.
this
Wow.
quote that I think is a beautiful quote, which he writes, which
Mm.
is, there is no rose without a thorn, but many a thorn without roses. And to me, it's this kind of reminder that sometimes the struggle is just the struggle. Like, be at the place to try something and decide, you know what? Yeah, there's nothing on the end of this, and cut bait and cut your losses and move on. But also the other side of this is, every rose has a thorn,
Wow.
everything has a struggle within it. And that's a quote that's been stuck with me, and it's made me sort of look at my things going on in my life and making sure that there's actually a rose here, and this is not just a thorn for thorn's sake. What about you? What smart, funny
Goodness.
thing would you leave folks with as we depart?
What a wonderful quote that is. And I do have to wonder if that might have inspired Panic at the Disco when they have that lyric about these other thorns are roses.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Talking about people as soon as he got famous, trying to suck the resource out of him.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Probably not. He probably was not reading that particular philosopher.
Yeah.
But maybe. For me, I've been reading a book, and this I'm going to go the maybe smarter path versus the funny
Yeah.
path, and I apologize here, but that's what's on my heart right now. So I'm about to turn 40, and I had a dear friend, Jim Rich. He recommended a book to me called 40/40 Vision.
Mm.
And a lot of men in particular, when they get into the 40 to 45 range, kind of lose their minds
Yes.
in some different ways. That's just a reality. I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush here. It's just something that physiologically tends to happen in our brains to some degree. And so I've just been really investing in myself in terms of where my identity comes from. And that book and that friend and so many wonderful people in the CX community and in our community here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, has just been so helpful to me in these past months to anchor my identity in the right things, in the right places. So I would highly recommend that book, 40/40 Vision, to anybody that's entering into that same stage of life, maybe, and just wanting to make sure that your identity is anchored in good, positive things that can withstand the test of life that's coming. That's a really good, helpful resource.
That's awesome. Well, Nate, this has been awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, go check out Nate. We'll have his profile for you guys to go connect with him. Once again, thank you all for listening. And as always, take care of yourselves. And if you can, each other.
See you, everybody.
Nate, you've been listening to an Amos Talks production.